my grandma, she's 94, and like, I like to kick it with her and shit when I'm in town. I try to go see her once every couple months and spend some fucking time with her. And like, I like to go international, so I like to travel and go places. Fuck,
See, I
if
I
all I
can
have to do is get
respect.
this vaccine.
See, I can respect, your viewpoint and how, the reasons why you get it. I can understand. I can, empathize and stick my feet in your. Now, the difference between what's going on, politically is now people are trying to force your viewpoint onto me. I don't live the same life as you. I have different ethics and
Oh,
different views.
for sure.
I have different, I stick my feet in the stand in other places. That's just the way life is. That's how it's gone for thousands and thousands of years since man. But now America was the point of freedom. Everyone has the freedom of choice to live your life without anyone telling you how to live your life or forcing you, hindering your pursuit of happiness. It's fucking written into the Constitution. And I'm a Marine. I served in the Marine Corps a couple years ago, and I signed that dotted line. It tells me to defend that Constitution till my death. It doesn't matter if I'm out. I will, I'll just stand on it. And again, I respect any person who wants to do it. I won't feel any way towards someone who takes a vaccine or even advocates for it. But as soon as you start forcing it and taking away my right to live and the right to provide for my daughter and my want me to follow your way of life when science says that now it's even showing that people get vaccine can transmit it. They can contract it and transmit it. And the CDC got a FOIA request trying asking if there's any data that they've been looking at that person who's unvaccinated contracted COVID, got over it, contracted COVID again, and their transmission rates versus someone who is vaccinated and there is zero data. They said that there is zero data. You can look it up, Project Veritas, and sent a FOIA request to the CDC. So if there's no data showing that there's more transmission from someone who's unvaccinated, who's gotten over COVID, has those antibodies, versus someone who has the COVID vaccine and has the vaccine antibodies, there's no empirical data showing that there's a difference in transmission rates, then the news needs to stop pushing that. News needs to stop pushing
Yeah,
it, and you
sucks,
need to
dude.
stop fucking mandating on me. Because I don't need
I mean,
to,
I had to get
I
it
don't need to see the
for
shit. All I
work.
need to do is smell the shit to know that shit's around the corner.
Hmm.
We'll find out how it plays out, bro.
See, that's why I'm so skeptical. I don't know what's gonna happen. Like you said, people are gonna be compromised from the vaccine because uh, you said they've been studying it for 30 years or so, right? Um,
Yeah, like 28 years, I think.
That's you're talking about spike proteins, correct?
Yeah, RNA vaccine with spike proteins, and there's other different proteins that they were studying too, but those are the most common with like viruses and shit.
because it's not an
If you
actual vaccine, right? When you get the shot, it makes your body produce extra protein that helps you fight the virus off, correct?
fight spike proteins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
make a protein that
and that's the
ultimately
S
it like
protein, correct?
it ultimately is produced like from your RNA and stuff, and what it does is it just like blocks the binding sites and like encapsulates like the spike protein. So like where they try to bind with the spike protein, it's called like an etope, but like it just like sits in there and blocks it and binds it so it can't, you know, have any effect on the cell. But they said that mRNA vaccines are like the vaccines of the future. More
Now,
vaccinations, I guess, RNA based.
now what happens in, with cancer is the number one reason I don't know if you know the answer. The scientific molecular reason that the mRNA, when it dies off, that turns into DNA. Am I sounding right?
When your
At,
RNA what?
is it at the end of your RNA's life cycle? Is that what turns into DNA?
No, no, they're two different.
How could you maybe explain that? Because from what I read somewhere is that whenever there's some mutation in your RNA, that's what in turn can cause cancer.
Well, no. So you're like your DNA makes the RNA. So like your DNA will send the RNA out from your nucleus to like other parts of your cell to like bind on ribosomes and like make these proteins like all throughout the body. And there's like tRNA and rRNA and there's all these different kinds and they all do different shit.
So
So
when you're getting this vaccine, is it
so let me tell
manipulating?
you this. Here's the difference
Yeah.
between a vaccine and the RNA. A regular vaccine is actually it goes into the cell and it affects your DNA. So every cell that replicates from that cell is going to obviously have that new DNA where, going to have the memory stored, I guess, per se, for.
Yeah.
And then the RNA vaccine, it bypasses DNA, so it has no effect on the DNA. So what it does is it temporarily stimulates all your cells as an RNA message, and it makes your ribosome, or it makes your um, endoplasmic reticulum make all these new proteins. And these proteins obviously are to combat the spike protein. So what happens is all these, everything that goes out to combat the COVID, it all gets memorized. There's like B cells and T cells. I don't know if you guys are from stuff,
I, I'm
but
I'm
like
I'm like I remember some of this shit, but I'm kind of familiar with some of it just through the COVID conversation.
yeah, so there's like your memory B cells and your memory T cells, and pretty much is they'll just like remember, you know, the RNA message that, was stimulated to them to help them know if, they're ever exposed to COVID again that they can react. So once that all your cells are kind of get up to date, like your white blood cells, which are your helper T cells, your helper B cells, like those aren't anything that are in your normal normal host regular cells that we're talking like replication with like skin and airway and like things of that nature. But yeah, so that's why they're saying like people have a lot less side effects supposedly in theory from RNA vaccination than they would with DNA modulation. And there's like this show on Netflix, there's a couple other things where like people are actually trying to go out and mutate their DNA. It's like that's what they're saying is going to be like
Yeah.
something that happens in the future. You're going to be able to modulate your DNA, and there's going to be people that super athletes and stuff, and that's going to be
Yeah.
like the future of sports and like the world, and that's going to be obviously the government's going to be
Yeah,
highly
they're gonna have to
controlling of
regulate that.
that. They're not going to want every Joe Schmo out here fucking scaling buildings and flying around. I
See,
don't know, dude,
but
it's crazy.
the thing is, yeah. But I guess my whole stance is that I can see both sides. Just don't force your side on me. That's what America. That's my viewpoint of America and how what it stands for in the Constitution. That is the same type of thinking that George Washington and our founding fathers were thinking at that time.
Hmm.
And wrote the Constitution, and if you read the words at face value, you can see that it was written it was written to transcend time. That was the way that they wrote it. Like say, just for example, the Second Amendment, they did not say muskets. Did not say muskets.
Arms.
Yeah, arms. Arms could be defined as anything that they can use or anything that they can use. But
To defend themselves.
it's literally so fucking face value, and but it's everything's turning so political, and I'm honestly scared. My daughter,
I don't know, but
you
you
know,
should have bought some. You should have bought some Pfizer before. I should have bought some last
oh
year.
my god.
Oh, what do you mean the
Dude,
stocks?
that
But
yeah, that
you
shit
know
is booming.
what I gotta ask you is what's gonna happen to the hospitals when there's a mutation in COVID, where there's another a derivative, or what was it called? I'm fucking drawing a blank here. I just woke. Um,
Variant.
variation, a variant. Exact. Thank you. If there's another variant where the vaccine is not touching it, people get so fucking sick because now their immune system, our immune system is dependent on that vaccine. Now that vaccine can't fight that variant.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is they're all remotely similar variant. It's just the difference in their proteins that are on the virus. Like COVID-19's got the spike protein, and now they're all having these variations of the spike protein. But the benefit of having the vaccine is you've already been exposed to a similar illness. You know, obviously you're talking about mutation, so it's not going to be the same, but you experience a similar illness, so your body already has the tools to, fight back. Yeah, it might not be as effective as if it was the original variant, but like, the people that have got the vaccine, like they tend to be, like the facts just say that they tend to be less sicker, like side effects aside, like yeah, every 3 people in 5 million has like cardiac issues and whatever they say.
Yeah,
But that's
I can see that, and I can agree saying that the vaccine will definitely draw down the symptoms and you get as sick. But what I want to know, and I like I said, I don't know if there's any data on this, is if someone who had COVID got over it and got it again, and how sick they are versus someone who, or I guess you could say the antibody levels of someone who, you know, got it again and now they got over it for a second time versus someone who got the vaccine. Because right now, like I got over it in 2 days, and I think that's because I had it before.
yeah. Well, I know people
Wearing the,
that have had it twice, but I don't know. They feel
you
shitty
know, if
every
they got,
time, dude. You
did
know
they
what
get,
I mean?
did they get sick as the first time though? Do you know? I
I mean,
would,
they said
no
they were
way
they
for
said
me.
they were pretty sick. I mean, they said they were, they were sick, but like, it wasn't as debilitating as it had been like the time prior. But I mean, they still said they were feeling pretty shitty. So,
Oh
but
yeah,
like I
I
said,
can agree.
So
I
I'm
mean,
gonna
you
I
have a
don't I
virus.
don't really yeah I don't
I'm
really
gonna
know.
throw a wrench in that theory. I was just listening to Dr. Peter A. McCullough on the Joe Rogan podcast. Do you know who that is,
Yep.
Dr. Peter A.
Yeah, yeah.
McCullough? And he was saying that you cannot get COVID twice. I haven't listened to the whole podcast, so I have it right here. I'm an hour, 14 minutes in. I got an hour left to listen. I didn't listen to the rest. Had got off work and didn't listen to it. But the part I did hear was he was saying you cannot get COVID twice.
Yeah, well, here's the hardest thing though, is this is why they're considering people are getting it twice, is because when you get your antibody test to decide if you have COVID or not, that used to be the gold standard at the time up until recently. You can have humoral antibodies from the vaccine. Typically, you can have those for 6 to 9 months, and then you can have antibodies from just your body fighting off COVID the original time. So like, there's
You're
two different
talking
types of
unvaccinated.
yeah, like unvaccinated, or just yeah. So the thing about it is they're the more that they're testing these people's blood that are unvaccinated that got COVID, they still have antibodies like 18 months after, which is way longer than people typically projected. And the thing is their antibodies are active. So like when you have antibodies in your body, that means that they're floating around, they're being produced, they're ready to fight. After a while, all your antibodies are going to go away, just like with any illness, because your memory T cells, your plasma cells, and your memory B cells and your plasma cells can all make more at a drop of a pin, like if need be, because your body's got other functions to be doing. You can't always just be bumping out antibodies for shit that they don't need, but at any time your body can kick on and boom those antibodies. But the thing about it is, if you get sick with COVID, right, and you get tested at the beginning, it's your first time you've been sick with it, you're obviously going to have antibodies because your body's making antibodies. So let's say 8 months later, 10 months later, you get sick again, and it's most likely COVID, but then you draw antibodies, you still have antibodies. So it's like you can't tell if it was like acute illness, like a reinfection of COVID, potentially something else, because your antibodies still might be there from your original time that you were sick, like a year and a half prior.
All
So
right,
no
so
one can really tell.
let me take a little bit from what you said. So from what I'm getting at is taking the vaccine for COVID is like a band-aid, but staying unvaccinated and fighting through it is like putting Neosporin on it, giving it air, and giving it some time to really heal.
No, this is the best way to think about it. This is literally the best way to think about it. Getting the vaccine is like putting on 3 armor plates before you go out into the war zone. Like, yeah, you could still die, but at the end of the day, you have a whole lot fucking better chance of staying. That's probably the best way to think about it.
All right, and then I'm gonna kick
But
back.
also think
And
about it like
then
this:
is my
you can be
hold on,
that
hold on, hold on,
person.
hold on. I gotta break it down before I forget it. Hold on. Then you can say what you gotta say. Hold on. Take what you said, but now what happens is the unvaccinated see there's going to be a variant where the bullets on the other side are like the COVID. And that's a variant where that the vaccine doesn't affect that type of variant, and like what's that is that that's a wounding effect, so that's going to hit you. Don't fuck your armor plates. But see me, I'm unvaccinated, I'm unaffected from that. They can still damage me, but I won't get hit from the flesh.
Right, and the thing about it is COVID is so bad. It's like, COVID's just like a ground loot gun, dude. But all these new variants are like fucking, they're like legendary, dude.
The
They're
fucking
gold. So
brand,
like,
dude.
if you don't have your plates, dude, you're just gonna get mowed down, dude. The stronger it's getting.
I don't know.
But
I
there's always, and think about it like this: there's always that person that fucking real bad at duty and fucking goes to the gulag, and they got hit with COVID. They went to the gulag and they recover, and then they run around the rest of the game with just a pistol and no plates, and they end up winning. So shit like that too.
So is that what you think that I'm not I won't take any disrespect or anything from it. So do you think what I'm doing is
But
I just spawned from the gulag and I got a pistol right now?
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
All right, bet.
It's
That's
like
all I need.
it's round 3 or 4.
That's all right. I'll use high IQ plays. I'll survive this bitch.
And I mean that's the thing, dude. Is the
I
majority
got
of
a 3
people are
KD. Fuck that shit. I'm winning this
the
bitch.
the majority of people are living, dude. Like that's factual. But the people that are getting it and they're getting it bad, it's just like getting dealt a shitty hand, dude. You deal out what 36 hands of cards, two cards.
So
You got the
so
worst hand out of
what
all of
what
them.
what do you think with me, for instance? So I personally, from what I read of the symptoms, I think I had that Omicron variant just based on I had the symptoms I had no headache, I had no fever. All I had was some serious body aches. That's it. I had that for a day, and on the second day it was really bad, but then the next day I kind of got over it. But then on like the third day I lost my taste and smell. I ate a salty ass bag of popcorn. I woke up the next day and I could smell and taste again. Now, I think I had
I
the
mean, the thing
Omicron
about the
variant. What do you think? Where do you think my health stands right now as far as new variants coming out, COVID still being a thing, and the potential
here's the
antibodies that I
biggest thing, bro.
produce from having
This
it?
is what you're worried about with COVID. Dude. If you don't have any respiratory symptoms, then you're good. You're gonna be fine, and health's fine, whatever. But if you had severe respiratory symptoms, say you felt like you were short of breath, you were coughing and hacking for weeks at a time, like those are the people that even after they survive, if let's say they came into the hospital and got a CAT scan or something, their lungs are literally scarred and fucking from the inflammation that they had for that brief period of time, and their lungs are all scarred up, and that's permanent damage. That's nothing that can ever be recovered. So the body aches and the digestive issues and like the other common things like smelling and tasting, like if you have those are pretty much like expected, and those are like the mild symptoms. But like like I said, if you were having severe respiratory symptoms, sometimes people that are younger, they can tough it out at home and still function. But you get older people that can't breathe and their oxygen levels are dipping and shit, they're gonna have a heart attack.